We are more than strong women. We are purpose women. And I just want to thank God for this conference.
Already. So where my survivors at? Where my survivors at?
Here we
Clap it
are.
up.
Here we are.
Where my survivors at? If you survive something, I want you to clap. If you survive addiction, prison, homelessness, debt, divorce, death of a loved one, suicide attempts, where you at? Come on, give yourself some love. Give yourself some love. Hey, Heart Nation. Welcome to another episode of Carla's channel, Heart to Heart Inspiration Podcast. I am your host, the Queen of Inspiration, Carla J. And today I have another exciting and inspiring guest. I can't wait for you all to meet her. She is the funeral director and CEO of Compassion Memorial Services in Chicago. And guess what, y'all? She is ready to answer our most hardest questions that we don't want to ask anybody about the funeral and death business. Tanya Walker is compassionate. She considers herself fun-loving and has a natural sense of humor. So with no further ado, let's welcome to the stage, Tanya Walker.
Yes. Hey, thank you, Miss Carla. Hello, Heart Nation. How is everybody doing? Yes, Heart Nation.
Yes. Thank you. You are looking lovely. I love your hair. You look so wonderful.
Thank you.
You're like, all right.
Thank you, Miss Carla.
So, I just like to keep it light, but I also like to dig in. And I'm just going to dig into some questions, and then we'll learn a little bit more about you. How's that?
Sounds good to me. Let's do it.
So since you are in the funeral business, how much does a funeral actually cost in 2026?
So in 2026, the average funeral is going to start somewhere around $7,000 to $8,000.
Okay.
For a funeral.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what does that $7,000 to $8,000 look like?
So the $7,000 to $8,000 basically is going to take care of the professional services of the funeral director and the staff. So it takes care of us removing your loved one, bringing them to the funeral home. It covers the cost of embalming. It covers the cost of what we could call other preparations, which are cosmetology, casketing, dressing. It covers a visitation. It covers transportation back and forth to the church if they're having a service at a church or a mosque or wherever they may have service at, as well as transportation to either a cemetery or a crematory. And then some other things too, such as like the register book, the gloves, things of that nature. It covers those things, yes.
Wow. I'm glad you said that. That actually seems like that covers a lot, really.
It does.
Okay. It seems like that covers a lot. And I want to ask some more questions off of that. I've always wondered about the gloves. Why are there gloves?
So the purpose of the funeral gloves are for those who are selected as pallbearers, which can be either male or female. It just allows them to get a better grip when carrying the casket, if they're carrying it from the place of the service to the hearse or from the hearse to the actual burial site.
Okay, thank you for that. All right. So what are the steps a family should take after a loved one passes?
Okay, after a loved one passes, they have to breathe first because there's so much that's going on. They have to breathe, and then they need to decide who they would like to care for the final services of their loved one, whether that's a funeral service provider or a funeral home. They have to make a decision who they'd like to go with to take care of those services.
Wow. What is the difference between a provider or a funeral home?
Okay, so a funeral service provider, such as myself, I do everything that you will find at your traditional funeral homes. I just at the moment do not have my brick and mortar. So I provide any kind of service, whether that's traditional, non traditional funeral service. I provide direct cremations, direct burials, and things of that nature. It's just that I do my service from a remote location. I'm not in my own location yet. So the difference is a funeral home is established with their location. A funeral service provider has not secured brick and mortar yet.
Okay. And then what you may rent out a place?
Yes. So for myself, I actually work out of one of my colleagues' establishments. So whatever costs I need to take care of with that individual, I go ahead and I take care of my overhead expenses with them so that I can provide services to my family.
Oh, that's really good. That's really unique. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
So, Tanya, tell us how you got into this business in the funeral service business. How did you?
All right, here we go. Get your popcorn out. So for me, I've always been drawn to the funeral home. Didn't understand it when I was a child. I lived close to a cemetery, and my friends and I, we used to play actually in the cemetery. And people would call us the graveyard kids. Like, why are you all playing in the cemetery? We did, Miss Carla. We played in a cemetery, and I loved it. It was like so peaceful to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know it sounds odd to people who are not called to this, but it was just peaceful. And whenever I would go to a wake or a visitation at the funeral home, I wanted to see more than the person we were going to see. You know, I wanted to peek in this room. Oh, let me see that person. Let me see that person. Whether I knew them or not, my family was like, why do you always want to go and see everybody? I
Mhm.
just wanted to go and see people, not realizing that this is something that I would grow to love, something that I would have a passion for. And that's basically how it started. But after I worked in corporate America for about 25 years, I
Okay.
said, let me go back to school and pursue what I've always loved, and that was mortuary science. So I went back to school, mortuary science, graduated, did my internship, worked for a very reputable funeral home here in Chicago, and eventually I branched out on my own.
Look at that. That
Yes,
is
ma'am.
awesome.
Thank you.
Wow. Mortuary science is like the field that people would go through if they're interested in that.
Yes, ma'am. It's called mortuary science. Yep.
Oh, so is it like I'm thinking of nursing where you have like an internship where you have to actually go and do the embalming and things like that?
You're absolutely correct. And it's good that you mentioned nursing because I actually attended Malcolm X College and I went through their mortuary science program, which is a 2-year program. So, like any other program where you're becoming degree, you actually go through your regular courses. Like we had to take basic courses, math, English, things of that nature. We had to take accounting. We had to take biology, things of that nature to study the body. But yes, at the end of that course, you actually do go into the lab. Like we had to go to the medical examiner's office here in Chicago. So
Wow.
we had to do cases at the medical examiner's office. And then the goal is to get connected with the funeral home where you begin to work there. And then if you're blessed enough, you get someone who will say, hey, I'll do your internship. And so after you have to take tests, you have to take an exit exam to get out of the program, and
Okay.
then you have to take an arts and science examination, and it's a state exam in order to get an intern license. Then once you get your intern license, you have to do so many cases of embalming, which is what's done in the background, funeral directing, which is done in the forefront, where you see funeral directors out at the funerals or doing funeral arrangements. And after you've completed that, then you go for your actual license.
Wow. And that's a state license.
It is a state license, yes, ma'am.
Wow, that is awesome.
Yes,
I did not know all of that was involved, but it makes a lot of sense.
yes.
Um, Now, tell the audience, do we really need life insurance and a will and estate planning, all that good stuff?
So yes, Life insurance is a safeguard. It's there to help your family when that actual time comes. You don't want to leave your family without a way to care for your final expenses. So life insurance, it helps to protect. It helps to protect you, your family at the time of death. As far as a will is concerned, absolutely. Absolutely. And the reason I say that is because you can verbally tell people, this is what I want done when I'm no longer here. But guess what? They don't always do it. And you're not going to know whether or not they're doing it. So the will kind of like ensures that what you desire once you pass away actually happens, because you have the lawyer that's involved that reads what's what, and everything is just taken care of. You don't leave it to just an individual to carry out the wishes, because they may or may not do it.
That's so true. They may or
Yeah.
may not. Actually, my daughters were discussing, Mom, what you want, this, that, and the other. And I do have a will in place, but they
Okay.
like to have these debates. Well, Mama said this, and I'm going to do that. And one of my daughters said, she going to be dead. She don't know what we going to be doing. I was like,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
Wow. That's true. That's true.
Wow. Yeah, let me make sure my will is all.
Make sure it's
You know,
together. My son told me the same thing, Miss Carla. He said, "You're not gonna be here. You're not gonna know what I'm doing." I said, "Hey, this is what I want."
right. I love that. And those are conversations that we really should have with our families.
Yes.
I see it a lot on the nursing side in the hospital when death is imminent. And I
Yes.
know you see it as well. And this is a question just off kind of topic a little bit, but I remember when I was in hospice nursing, I had to call the funeral home when there was a death and alert them there was a death and things like that. And they would always ask, were they an organ donor?
Yes.
What's the purpose of that?
Well, when a person passes away, sometimes their organs can be used for others who are in need of transplants. Sometimes, actually, people can put that on their driver's license or their state IDs, whether or not they want to be an organ donor. But the reason that you're asked that question is because if that person has communicated they would like to be a donor, or if the family says, yes, we want to donate, then we only have so many hours to get those organs in order for them to be able to be transplanted into someone else. Yeah,
Okay.
so that's why they want to know, because if we want to, get a heart, get a kidney or something like that, then we have to do it as soon as possible.
Wow. And then the funeral home you all would call or and get the organs?
So no, there's actually, I know here in Chicago, there's what we call Gift of Hope. And so you probably have heard of Gift of Hope before, but yes, the Gift of Hope, they're the ones who make those calls to the family. And if the family says yes, then they set everything up so that there could be the procedure, to get whatever organ that the family has agreed to donate, so that they can preserve that organ and pretty much go from there. So yeah, there's that middle person. They ask you the question, then the Gift of Hope steps in, sets that information up. And then after that's been done, then the funeral home takes possession of the body.
Okay. That's very informative. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So how can families plan a funeral on a budget without sacrificing dignity? I know that's come up a lot lately. A lot of people are opting for cremation. What's the difference in the cost with cremation versus a funeral in a cemetery?
Okay, sure, not a problem. So the difference, let me answer the first question. If you have a funeral service provider or a funeral home, and most of us we understand dignity is a big part of that final celebration for families. We want to help them maintain dignity no matter what kind of budget they actually have. So we would sit down, we would meet with that family, provide options for them, whatever budget they tell us, and we would pretty much go from there. Sometimes families say, okay, well, I don't have tens of thousands of dollars. I like to do a direct cremation. I like to do a memorial service, So if those are the selections that the families choose to make, then you don't have to be concerned with the cost of a body being removed from the place of death to the funeral home. You don't have to worry about embalming expenses. You don't have to worry about purchasing a casket. Those are just some of the things that you don't have to worry about. And I believe you also asked me about direct cremation. In terms of the cost difference, then you're looking about maybe anywhere from a $3,000 to $5,000 cost difference in terms of it being less. So like a direct cremation may cost $2,000 or $2,500. Whereas, the funeral, like I said, traditional funeral is going to start somewhere around $7,000 to $8,000. And depending on what you want to add, it would increase the cost.
I'm glad you said that. Direct cremation, I've heard some people said they got the cremation remains in a bag, or that you have to pay extra for, I guess, the vase or things like that.
Right. So typically, a crematory, once your loved one has been cremated, they're going to return them in what's called a temporary container. So the cremains are actually in a plastic bag and then like a hard container, maybe about the size of a shoebox. That's how they're returned. Okay, so that's a temporary urn, temporary cremation urn. And then you can either purchase an urn from your funeral service provider, or a lot of people, they go on Amazon, and they purchase them. And so if that's the case, I know for my families who do direct cremation, once I receive their cremains back, then I'm going to fill one of your urns complimentary for you. I'll do that complimentary, I'll do that. But then sometimes families want a lot. Now they have things like urn jewelry. So let's say mama had 7 kids and you bring me 7 necklaces that need to be, filled. I'll fill them. It's an additional charge for that. Or sometimes they may say, hey, we want so many mini urns. They might ask for miniature urns. So I might have 8 miniature urns, to spread the cremains out. So it just depends on what the family actually wants.
Wow, thank you. I'm glad that you said you do that complimentary, that first one.
Absolutely.
I hope the audience hears that. And
yes.
I'm glad you mentioned the jewelry. I just learned about the jewelry maybe in the last 3 years. Yes. I wasn't aware of that, but you can actually get some jewelry and put the ashes in there. Wow.
Yes, you can get necklaces, watches. My very first customer, her mom passed away, and we took some of her cremains and made it into a ring with a pearl on top of it.
Oh,
yes. There are so many options. Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
You. And so what is pre-need funeral planning? Like, I've heard of that for like pre-planning, but I don't really know what that is.
Sure. So pre-need is basically preparation of what type of funeral service you would desire before you pass away. So basically you would come in, you would sit down with the funeral director and say, hey, this is what I would like when I pass away. You would pick out your casket. You would let them know, hey, I want this many family cars. I want 2 family cars. I would like a 3-piece floral arrangements. I want 200 obituaries. It's just basically sitting down and stating everything that you desire at your final services. And then at that time when it happens, the family, all they have to do pretty much is select the date for the service, because you've already come in and you've taken care of everything else. Another benefit of a pre-need is that you lock yourself into the cost of funeral service today, the current cost. So that's big. If someone comes in and they sit down with me and they do a pre-need and they say, okay, my service package is $10,000. Well, whether they die in 2 weeks or whether they die in 25 years from now, it's not going to increase the cost. It's still going to be that. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. That's really interesting. There's so many questions I could ask you, Tanya, but I want to get into your life, coming from corporate into starting your own business, going back to school. When you were in corporate, would you say that you were like surviving and now you're thriving?
I would say, so I worked for the phone company for almost 17 years. So the good old Illinois Bill, turn Ameritech, turn SBC, turn AT&T. That's where I actually worked. So I would say that even working there, I would have to say I was blessed because life was good. You know, when you land jobs at companies like the phone company, the post office, the railroad, just different things like that, then those are good jobs. So it was good for me then. It's good for me now. It's just a little different being an entrepreneur, you know. So I find like with having my own business, I definitely put in more hours.
Yeah.
You know, I put in more hours now as a business owner than I did when I worked for someone else. But the fulfillment of what I'm doing, that pays me as well. So,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, I love it. And you sound like you have such a passion for what you do. You really do.
I do. It's important for me for people to be okay during that season, you know, because they're experiencing so many emotions. They're going through so many things. You know, they're dealing with the separation anxiety for having someone who's been in their life for so many years. Now they're no longer there. They have to navigate, you know, what life is going to look like without that loved one being there. So they need someone who's understanding of that, someone who can be patient. For me, it's important to try to take as much stress as possible as I can off of the family because they're grieving, you know. So I understand emotions, you know, I understand people may be up and down, you know, they may sit there at the desk, they may come in smiling, but that could turn quickly, you know what I'm saying? They can go from smiling to crying to being angry because they're just trying to process and go through that grief. So I understand that, and I like to help lift that up off my family.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
I could just tell, I could just see it all over you.
yeah, yeah.
If someone is watching this today and they have nothing in place, what should they do today?
Have the conversation. You know, have the conversation with their families and put something in place. Because one thing's for sure as we're born, we're going to die. We're going to leave here one day. And it's okay. Find out the option that's best for you. You know, whether that's getting an insurance policy and paying monthly for that, or whether that's starting a pre need. But have something in place so that when you pass away, your family is not left with the burden of funeral expenses while they're trying to grieve, because that's a tough cookie. That's a tough
Yes,
cookie. Yep.
it is.
Yeah.
What do you like to do for fun?
Oh, what do I like to do for fun? So I love music. I absolutely love music, all kinds of music.
I was gonna
You know,
ask, what kind?
right. I'm not stuck into one genre of music. Like I love gospel, I love jazz, I love hip hop, I love ballads. You know, I even try to learn a couple of country songs, country western.
Right, right.
Right. I don't have to rock down. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to rock down. I love the blues. You know, I just love music because for me, music just calms me. It relaxes me. You know, it takes me to a place out of a busy day. I can come and listen to some music. I start singing, you know, and I start feeling better. So I like to do that, spending time with my family,
Mm.
watching movies and making people laugh. If I can get people to laugh, that's fun for me. That's fun for me.
Yes, you like comedy. You know,
Yes.
you said you have a natural sense of humor that works. Now, are you into comedy? Like, do you do stand up or anything like that? Or are you just natural?
So I have done stand up before. Okay. Stand up is a whole different ball game. You know, when you're naturally funny, you might say something in front of the family and everyone laughs at it
Right,
because
right.
it's funny. But when you do stand up, you're in front of an audience who does not know who you are personally. So you have to have material that they find funny, you know, because the worst thing for a stand up comedian is to tell a joke and everybody's like, right, like that's not funny. So stand up, it's a whole different ball game. But I have done it before, and I did pretty well.
Okay,
I
good,
did
good.
pretty good. Yes.
Is it still in your ambitions to continue?
You know, it is in my ambitions, and if I may, one thing I failed to mention is that I love to write. I have a passion for writing. In the past, I've written plays when I was younger. I used to write poetry. So, yes, that's kind of like coming back up. I'm like, oh, okay, you know. And so in my writings, I do include things that are funny. You're going to get the message of what's being written, but you're also going to laugh. You're not going to leave there and not laugh. That's for sure.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that is awesome. I
Thank
love
you.
that. What does legacy truly mean to you? How do you want people to remember you?
Okay. So, legacy to me is all about influence. What did you do with your time while you were here on earth?
Mm.
When I think about people remembering me and who I am, I want them to remember a person who was integral, someone who was ethical, trustworthy, compassionate, just someone who cared enough for people to make a difference.
Mm.
And for me, it's the small things, you know what I'm saying? Like, I might not never go to Hollywood. I'm okay with that. But was I able to make the difference in the life of the Joneses or the Jackson? Will the white family remember? Oh, we remember her. She did
Yes.
X, Y, and Z. So I want to be remembered for that. I want to be remembered
Yes.
for that.
I like that. And I think that's important, not just in the funeral business, but I can tell you that my grandparents who passed away, we still remember the funeral services that they had, the funeral director, how
Yeah.
nice and compassionate they were. My
Yes.
younger sister who passed away, and this
Mhm.
was, over 40 years ago, I still remember that,
Yes. Yes.
so I like that. And in my personal life, I want to make a difference too.
Yes.
That's why I have the podcast. That's why
Yes.
I invite wonderful people like you
Oh.
to speak and share your
Yes.
knowledge and your journey as well.
Yes.
How can people contact you?
Okay, so currently, if you want to contact me, you can reach me by email or you can also reach me by telephone. My email address is compassion, MS for memorial services, and then 318. So that's COMPASSION, MS318 at gmail.com. And then if you want to reach me by telephone, you can call me at 773-936-3871.
All right. I love that. You have been a great guest. So many questions that I still have for you, Tanya. So we got to have you back on. We got to
Sounds
have
good
you
to
back.
me. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this, Miss Carla. I've enjoyed it.
Yes,
You and Heart Nation. Yes.
yes, yes. We
Yes.
love you. We want to see the best for you. And thank you for explaining everything. And we like to wrap up with always asking, one or two questions. You get to pick. What is one quote you're living by today? Or what would your younger self say looking at you today?
Okay. My younger self looking at me today would probably say, although life does not typically go how we think it would go when we're younger, you're doing well and to keep going. I think my younger self would tell my older self to keep going. Yes.
I love that. Yes,
Thank you.
that's something we all need to hear. Keep
Yes.
going. Keep
Yes.
going.
Keep
So,
going.
Tanya, I really appreciate you. Thank you again. And
Okay.
people in Chicago, if you're interested, you have questions, I'm sure that Tanya has some type of system to assist you, with the answering your questions and services and things like that, that she
Absolutely.
can assist you with. So,
Yeah,
Tanya,
absolutely.
thank you. And Heart Nation, it's
Yes. Thank you
about
so
you
much, Miss
again.
Carla.
Yes, I loved it. Thank you.
Yes.
This is a
You're welcome.
question that's like taboo for people. So
It is.
thank
You're
thank you so
welcome.
much.
And thanks for having me.